I was speaking at a talent and retention conference in London, and one of the questions that was asked after my presentation was around this positive picture that I was painting about Africa. And he said to me, you keep saying all these positive things about Africa, but when we as the Western world look at Africa, we often still see hands begging for money. What is going on? Africa will be the economic powerhouse of the future. So you as the Western world might as well get used to it. It's a fact. The only question is when. It's not whether it's going to happen, it will happen. The question is when. 60% of the uncultivated arable land in the world sits on this continent. That translates to 600 million hectares of uncultivated arable land. Africa will have to be the breadbasket of the world in the future. But the one thing we cannot do as Africans is sell our land to the rest of the world. 99% of the world's unmined chrome resources sit on African soil. 85% of the unmined platinum resources in the world. Did you hear those statistics? 99%, 85%, also 54%, just more than half of the unmined gold resources still sit on Africa. So how do we as Africans ensure that we create sustainable value out of these resources? Again, we have to be very careful that we don't allow a new and improved form of colonialism to take these resources, where we sell it at a very cheap price, they add value to it, and we're left with almost nothing. So again, if we want to turn our natural resources into sustainable advantage, we need skills, we need training, we need management, we need to attract our diaspora talent to come back. We need to go to all these geologists and engineers sitting all over the world, and we need to call them and say to them, it's time to come home. There's an opportunity for you, and it's a long-term opportunity. As you probably know, in the rest of the Western world, the population is aging, which is why they take a lot of our talent. If your grandparents don't have children, okay, and your parents don't have children, there's a very good chance you're not going to have any children. Okay. And that's what's happening in the Western world. There's a negative population growth. So they need to take our talent, which is kind of okay for a short term as long as we can get that talent back. But the kind of youth that we have is also a big question. What kind of youth are we going to have? Are we going to have youth that's unemployed but well educated because they studied degrees that were not relevant to our society? It's up to each one of us sitting in this room, government, private sector, parents, to make sure that we guide our youth in the direction that we need them to go for them to create sustainable value for our countries. If we work together, we can achieve those three major challenges, and we can probably achieve even more than that.